Well, we never saw it coming, but in a shocking turn of events, Arsenal have lost their opening game of the new Premier League season. This is after losing 0-1 to their rivals, Tottenham Hotspur. In today's reaction, we'll be analyzing how the Gunners let this one slip. But before we get into that, why don't you subscribe for more daily reactions like this one? Also, drop a comment down below of what you think of Arsenal's performance. Let's get right into it. The first half started with a minute's applause for Her Majesty, the Queen, who sadly passed away last week. And then soon after the kickoff, we were almost off to a flyer as Bukayo Saka fits a dangerous cross into the box. It was a fantastic delivery into the area, but Gabriel Jesus was just inches away from connecting. Arsenal had the lion's share of the possession early on, and they were probing for an opener. Gabriel Martinelli then did well to beat his man on the left side of the box, but his shot was blocked for a corner. It was a good start by the Gunners, and they continued to press forward. After 20 minutes, Martinelli got in behind the defense again, but this time, his low cross was overhit and nobody from Arsenal could get on the end of it. After half an hour, the deadlock was broken, but not in the way that we expected. Pierre-Emile Højbjerg picks up the ball in the middle of the park and he drives forward. Before unleashing a powerful long-range effort, it took a slight deflection off Rob Holding. But Aaron Ramsdale had no chance and the visitors took the lead. It was a sucker punch for the home side and they needed to pick themselves up quickly if they wanted to get something from this match. And almost immediately, they came close to doing so as Saka played a neat 1-2 with Jesus. And he cut inside onto his left foot and curled an effort towards the top corner. Loris did well to push it over the bar. Jesus then had a golden opportunity to equalize just before the break. It was good play by Arsenal as they worked the ball into the box and Martinelli pulled it back for Jesus. But the Brazilian striker sent his shot wide of the target when it seemed easier to score. It was a big miss from Jesus, and the teams went in at the break with Spurs leading 1-0. In terms of chances created, Arsenal had more than their fair share. But they couldn't find the back of the net, and they had missed a glorious opportunity to level the scores just before the break. In terms of the overall performance, I thought that the first half was pretty even. Sure, Arsenal had more of the ball, but I didn't think that they created any clear-cut opportunities. Jesus had one half-decent chance, but other than that, I didn't really see too many opportunities for either side. I think the goal came against the run of play for Spurs, and for me, it was probably a fortunate goal for them. The deflection off Holding made it a lot more difficult for Ramsdale, and I think that if the shot didn't take that deflection, then it would have been saved. But at the same time, Ramsdale hasn't really had much of a preseason either, so it was always going to be a tough ask for him to come straight into the team and make big saves. But unfortunately for Arsenal, the goal came against the run of play and they conceded just before the break, which made it even more difficult for them. The second half started brightly as Arsenal pushed for an equalizer, but out of nowhere, Son Heung-min almost doubled the lead for the visitors. It was a brilliant counter-attacking move by Spurs as they broke forward at pace, and Dejan Kulusevski picked out Son in the area and he forced Ramsdale into a smart save. It was a good stop by the England international and it prevented Spurs from doubling their lead. Jesus then dragged his shot wide of the mark after a good build-up from Arsenal, and in truth, the pressure was starting to mount on the visitors' goal. However, they stood strong and they defended resolutely as a unit, and they also looked dangerous on the counter-attack. Ramsdale was called into action again. This time, he gathers comfortably after a mistake by William Saliba, and then soon after, Granit Xhaka replaced the disappointing Albert Sambi Lokonga, as Xhaka slotted into midfield alongside Thomas Partey. As the game progressed, Arsenal continued to push forward in search of a goal, but the longer the game remained 1-0, the more the tension mounted at the Emirates. And with 70 minutes played, Arsenal finally got the equalizer that they were looking for. It was good build-up play by Arsenal, as they worked the ball into the final third and Martinelli pulls it back for Jesus, who slots into an empty net. What a way for Jesus to open his account for Arsenal. It was a great finish from Jesus and relief for the home side as they finally got on the score sheet. However, it didn't last for long as just 3 minutes later, Harry Kane put Spurs ahead once again. It was another sucker punch for Arsenal, and a real blow to their hopes of getting anything from the game. Kane latched onto a long ball forward and he swiveled and fired past Ramsdale. The Arsenal defenders were caught out of position and there was nothing they could do as Kane slotted home. And with 78 minutes played, Arsenal made their final change as Bukayo Saka was replaced by new signing Marquinhos. It was a surprising change from Arteta, as Saka was arguably the best player on the pitch for Arsenal. But maybe he was making that change with one eye on the next game. As the game entered its final stages, Arsenal threw everyone forward in search of a late equalizer. But the lack of quality in the final third was evident, and they couldn't find a way past the resolute Spurs defense. Despite having the lion's share of possession, Arsenal couldn't find a way back into the game, and they suffered a shock 1-0 defeat at the hands of their rivals. All in all, it was a disappointing result for Arsenal. I thought that they played okay for large parts of the game, but they lacked creativity and quality in the final third, and they were punished for it. They went behind to a fortunate goal just before the break, but they responded well, and they got back on level terms through Jesus. But then they conceded another goal just 3 minutes later, and they never really recovered. And they huffed and they puffed, but they couldn't find a way past the stubborn Spurs defense. I thought that Jesus and Martinelli were the standout players for Arsenal. Jesus had a lot of touches, and he linked up well with the likes of Saka and Odegaard, and he eventually got the goal that his performance deserved. Martinelli was also very good. He put in some dangerous crosses, and he also caused problems with his movement. As for Tottenham, I thought that Højbjerg was excellent. He was always going to be a threat from distance, and he proved that with his goal. But he also covered ground in midfield, and he tackled well. Son was also a threat throughout the game, and he could have added to his tally with a couple of chances that he had. So there you have it. Arsenal suffered a shock 0-1 defeat at the hands of their rivals, Tottenham Hotspur. It was a disappointing result for the Gunners, but they can put things right on Wednesday when they travel to the South Coast to take on Bournemouth. That's it for today's reaction. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you subscribe for more daily reactions like this one. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.